everyone, and welcome back to training tape number 3 for football officials. My name is Cabe Murray. I'm the huddle coordinator for the Wisconsin River Officials Association. You will notice that we have another logo down there. We are very proud to announce at the WROA that we have partnered with the Arrowhead Officials Association out of Western Wisconsin. This collaboration is meant to put our funding together to help better educate you as officials and better serve the game across the state of Wisconsin. We hope with this funding we can increase the amount of use we can have with Huddle, and we also have increased our quality in our training tapes as I'm using a new training software now. Keep up the great work out there. I've had a lot of great clips come through, and I couldn't be more kind of pleased with how many clips I'm getting coming through of great learning and training opportunities. I had to select few plays to use today out of a huge pool. So keep sending those clips my way. Keep up the excellent work. And without a further ado, let's get right into it. So first off, our disclaimers. As always, remember watching this video does not count for any credit towards level advancement or a clinic for the WIA or any state association. Remember, the training is for a 5-person officiating crew with the umpire in the defensive backfield. You will see clips today from a game officiated in Minnesota in which the umpire is in the offensive backfield. You also see clips today from a college game in which they use 7-person officiating crews. These are more philosophy-based clips that we are going to be looking at, so the training is not affected at all in terms of where the umpire is positioned or the number of officials on the field. Remember that no clip is ever meant to pick on one official, group of officials, crew, player, or coach. And remember, I am not a trained clinician or have any association with the WIA or any state of association. I am just one of you guys trying to help you learn and become better officials. I'm hoping today you can grab something from what I'm about to talk about and take it towards you yourself or your crew as a whole. Remember, if you ever have any questions, my email is right there. You can always contact me and reach out. So let's look at topic number 1. We're going to be talking about free kicks here in our first segment of our training tape. We have very few free kicks in the game, but they often can be most important. They're where a lot of strange and unusual plays can happen, so we want to be as much prepared as we can when it comes to free kicks and officiating those properly. Just a couple reminders when we talk about free kicks. When we are officiating free kicks, we want to keep our eyes on our blockers. Remember, the ball carrier most of the time is not going to be committing a foul, and we never really need to put our eyes towards ball carrier, and this goes for any scrimmage down or kick or field goal attempt. We want to keep our eyes on the blockers at the point of attack. That is our biggest key right there. We want to make sure that those blocks are legal. Remember that this is a change in possession play, which means players are going to be shifting their eyes and shifting direction the most. So we want to make sure that we are paying special attention to those blockers that are shifting, because those are where a lot of our illegal blocks, like blocks in the back and blindside blocks, can happen. Remember, look for bad eggs. Oftentimes a kickoff is where someone is going to come head hunting out and try and lay someone out. So we need to make sure that we are officiating the best we can and looking for those if the play is not coming in your direction. And that kind of segues me into my last point. If the play is not on your side, be cleaning up. We're going to see a clip here where officials who did not have the ball in their quote-unquote primary could have cleaned up and caught a couple fouls. So keep that in mind. If the ball's not in your zone, still continue to officiate the play. Okay, so let's talk basic kickoff coverage. So when we look at a kickoff, we have our officials positioned on the field. We have our back judge here. He's on the 40-yard line, right about there. We have our referee who, depending on the type of play that we're going to have or the type of kicker that we have, and this is something that you can always scout out, will be positioned right about down here by the goal line. In this case, we knew that we had a good kicker that we were working with, so we kept the referee down here at the end line. Then we have our umpire that's up, or excuse me, not our umpire, our chain official or our linesman who is down here. And then we have our line judge over to the 50, and we also have our umpire down there near the 20. Now, as this kickoff comes into play, let's pay attention to where the blockers are. So we see that this kickoff is right at about the left hash. So right now we want to be focusing our attention on these blockers right around here. Okay, we see blockers here, and blockers here. We want to focus as much as we can on these blockers to make sure that we can officiate these, make sure that these are legal. So as this play continues on, We see that break up the left side. So that means now the line judge should have moved down the sideline a little bit more. And our umpire should also be in perfect position to be with the ball so that they can officiate this play. And as the play ends, we want to come in, we want to crash hard, and we want to make sure that we clean up anything that we need to, get the new balls in, get them ready for play. This is very basic stuff, but this is just a review and a renewal for anyone who wants to refresh their free kick coverage. Now, let's not forget about our guys over here on the other side of the field. These guys are still just as important over here as they were if they were on the other side of the field. They're cleaning up over here. They're looking for all of this action right around the middle of the field. Even right there, we could have had a block that was illegal. So we want to make sure that we don't quit officiating even if the ball doesn't come to our sideline. On this next play that we're going to have here, we're going to have a free kick and we're going to have a lot going on. So I apologize for the video quality. I'm not sure why it's zooming in and out like it is. But as we continue to kind of look through and look at these, we notice that there's a lot going on with this. And this kick is going all the way and we have flags on the field. So let's kind of walk through it a little bit, step by step, as to how we're going to officiate this play. So as we see the kickoff come off, all right, it's going to go to about the 20-yard line. So we're looking at all these blockers right in here, okay? And as this is going up the field, we want to continue to officiate the blockers out in front as best we can. Now, a couple things. Let's kind of rewind the clip here and take another look. As this play is going, we see a lot of different actions going on. So we see that this run is going to kind of go right up the middle. So as this run goes up the middle, we notice right here, okay, this is something that has our attention, right? We get a team R player on the ground near a team K player. So that's something very important. That's our first kind of look there. Okay, we have this come onto the ground, and it almost looks like a combination block that could go for a chop block, right? Because we see as we back it up a little bit that there's one block that's going to go below the waist, and this player, despite it being a block in the back, is above the waist. So this can qualify as a chop block based off of our chop block definitions that we know. So as we officiate that play, then we also have a lot going on. We see this play out here where the point of attack is right. So we're shifting our focus towards these blockers right up in here. We want to make sure that this blocker is identified right here, what he's doing. We maybe want to be looking at this blocker right here, okay? And this is primarily right now is the responsibility of our officials that are on this side of the field. This action right here in which happens is something that really can come from this official right here because he's working the back side of the play. So he's looking for all this stuff over here. He's not necessarily looking at this point of attack quite yet. As we continue to watch this play, we do see that something here happens. You see a block in the back right there. That flag does come in. Once we throw that flag, let's remember to not stop officiating the play. There's still other fouls that can happen. And as it goes on, it looks like there could have been something over here. This player got on the ground. We don't know how, but that's something that we need to keep our eyes forward for, and something that can even happen for cleanup. Just because as the referee, we have the ball caught here, okay, and we think we're following the ball carrier, we need to shift our eyes towards blockers. And this is something where the referee can continue to clean up as more and more players are working behind the ball and we're looking for bad eggs and stuff like that, or plays that happen super close to an official in front of them. If there is a block in the back that is maybe 1 yard away from a sideline official and it happens just like that and the sideline official doesn't catch it, don't be afraid to throw your flag there, get that picked up. So just general reminders when it comes to free kick coverage. They're changing direction plays. A lot can happen. And this is overall a good tape to kind of teach yourselves as to how we're going to officiate these and get them better and focus more on the blockers than anything else. The next topic I'd like to talk about is scrimmage kicks. They're probably the hardest plays to get right because of all the different little intricacies that can happen within a scrimmage kick. So when we talk about scrimmage kicks, this is just a couple of reminders with scrimmage kicks. Remember, for a formation to be considered a scrimmage kick formation, there has to be a long snapper, and the key part here is there should be a player to receive the snap more than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. So if they're 7 yards from the line of scrimmage, they're not considered in a scrimmage kick formation. And the reason for this and why this matters is snapper protection. A snapper is not going to be granted that protection if the player receiving the snap is not 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. So that's something very important and something that you should be using, especially you referees, making sure we think about that and say, is this punter, is he 10 yards from the line of scrimmage for it to be considered a scrimmage kick formation? Remember our general responsibilities. The umpire primarily is looking at the center, making sure that the center is not covered up. If he is covered, get the players lined up off of him and making sure that he can release correctly and that he's not defenseless when he is snapping the ball. Remember that the H, the linesman should be holding that line of scrimmage until all of K players cross their face. Otherwise, there's no one there holding the line of scrimmage, looking for holding penalties, things like that. Remember that the line judge should be working downfield right away and the back judge should be shaded to the linesman's side. That's a 5-person officiating mechanic rule where line judge, you got to take off right away and help with coverage down the field. Where the back judge should be bagging the end of the kicks, and they are also responsible for that returner, making sure that they have that protection, that they field the ball correctly, looking for first touchings, looking for when the kick ends. Remember, the referee also needs to protect the kicker and has holding with the upbacks, making sure that the kicker gets off cleanly and that we don't have running or roughing into the kicker. So we have a couple different scrimmage plays to kind of show you. As this ball gets kicked, we see that the back judge is going to do an excellent job of bagging it, and then there's going to be a long run. So that line judge right here should have already been down the field and should have been trailing behind this play. He was stationary. That's not correct. He needs to work down the field as much as he can so that he can be back there and help with any secondary coverage. He doesn't have to be right where the kick ends, but he needs to be working downfield a little bit more. The linesman did a good job of staying stationary and then did a great job there. If you caught that at the end, he worked up a little bit. So as soon as he had K cross his face, he worked his way up to the line of scrimmage, from the line of scrimmage, and then stopped and officiated the play. Excellent job by our linesman. We see that this is a breakout run. Typically, in most scrimmage kicks, if the ball is being kicked from the 20-yard line, the referee is going to be working to the goal line array, but because this kick was so deep in White's territory, then they had to work up to the goal line from the end line. So the referee works up there, makes sure that the ball carrier breaks the plane, confirms with the sideline official for a touchdown. This is overall really good scrimmage kick mechanics. We're watching for those blockers out in front. Most of the blocks, for the most part, look legal, and we can move on and continue to officiate the plays from there. Like this is, again, a good job of a scrimmage kick formation officiating play. Our next clip that we're going to look at is going to be a roughing the snapper clip. So remember, and this is more better viewed from the end zone view, we see this player right here, number 21, Black, is going to be committing our foul. And see how he's lined up over the center there right now. As an umpire, when you are generally, again, in our training, is going to be lined up right around here, okay, that umpire needs to come up and needs to say, hey, center, or excuse me, hey, lineman, get off of our center, make sure that he is not covered and that he's able to release freely. Remember, if the center stands up and tries to block, then he's fair game. But if he's trying to release, we have to allow him that protection. So, as this play is kicked, you'll see the long snapper snaps and is engaged immediately. This would be considered roughing the snapper, and our umpire, even though he's in the offensive backfield, did have a flag on this. And our reason for that is because if that center cannot release freely, he has that protection because he's considered defenseless when snapping the ball. So, excellent job by our umpire here of getting that engagement right away and getting a flag on this. Remember that roughing the snapper in high school is an automatic first down with a 15-yard penalty. It's one of our few automatic first downs that we have. Just something to keep in mind when we're doing penalty enforcement. We're going to take that from the previous spot because this is a foul by R before the kick. Our next play that we're going to look at, just our last one, is going to be why the linesman should hold the line so much. So I'll back it up a little bit here. We'll notice that as the ball is snapped, we see that there appears to be some holding right around here. And this is why it's so important for the linesman to hold the line of scrimmage. Because if the linesman breaks down the field right away, they don't see that holding there. And that takes one White player out of the game in this case. So we see that holding there. Linesman held that, saw it all the way through, and then has a flag on it at the end if you can see him throw it out. That's just an example of why we need to hold that line of scrimmage so much so that we can get those holding plays off of the edge. Those are very important plays that are crucial if they are missed, but if we officiate scrimmage kicks properly, then we will be able to get those fouls right away, beginning of the game, then we don't have to worry about them for the rest of the time. Our last topic that we're going to be talking about here today is holding. And holding is such a controversial, or I shouldn't say controversial, it's very often misunderstood of how we should be calling holding. And it's a very hard penalty for an offensive team to recover from, so we want to make sure that we're getting the big ones. So remember when we're looking at holding, just some reminders and some processes that we can use to kind of think of ourselves, okay, is that holding or is it not? When we call holding, there's just three things that we should ask ourselves. Is the holding at the point of attack? If it's not holding, because it's more than likely not affecting the play. Is there a holding action? So is there a grab and restrict? Am I restricting myself from being able to go and get that player? Or is the offensive player restricting that defensive player? Is there a takedown? Is that offensive player simply just tackling that defensive player to the ground? Is it a hook and turn? Are they taking them, grabbing them, and turning their bodies? That's considered holding. But if it's not any of those, and there are a few other ones that I didn't list there, then it's not holding. And then lastly, did that holding prevent that player from making the play? Did they get held at the 30 and the ball carrier was down at the 20? Or did they get held at the 30 and the ball carrier was down at the 31? Things that we need to ask ourselves, is it really significantly impacting the play? If it's not holding. But if you answer yes to all of those, then it's holding. So let's look at a couple clips here to kind of demonstrate holding, see what I'm talking about here, and we'll go from there. So let's look at some holding plays here. On this action, we're going to see some action right in the middle of the field, and I'll rewind it for you. But as we look at this action, we need to kind of ask ourselves a couple things, okay? Is this at the point of attack? Well, it's a pass play, so there really isn't a point of attack. So then our next question becomes, is there a grab and a restrict? If we can tell by our center and our left guard, we do see that there is some holding of the jersey material. So we could classify this as a grab and restrict. And secondly, did it have an impact on the play? This play resulted in a touchdown. So if this D lineman is allowed to get up and rush the quarterback, are they going to sack him? Are they going to make it a harder scramble? We really don't know. And for that reason, I would support a holding penalty on this because of that grab and restrict motion. It prevents that player from being able to make that play potentially. And I think overall is a good holding call by the umpire in this case. Now, if we look at our next play, we're going to look at action over here by this right guard or this right tackle. And we're going to see an incomplete pass. And first off, do we see, is it at the point of attack? Well, technically, yes. It's another pass play, right? And with that, it becomes all of the D linemen have a chance to be able to get to the quarterback. Then our second was, is there a grab and restrict? We can clearly see that the D lineman is restricted, 110%. That's kind of a non-negotiable. So the second question is, does it impact the play? And this is where I say we can keep our flag in our pocket for this reason. Because if we do just keep our flag in our pocket, it ends up being an incomplete pass anyways. And in this case, it was fourth down, so the ball was going to go to the other team anyways. If we keep our flag in our pocket here, we realize that this really didn't have a significant impact on the play. That lineman was not going to be able to go out and get that quarterback because of how fast he released and scrambled with the ball. Now, if that quarterback comes running up the sideline, then I would certainly support a holding foul here. But because of the outcome of the play and how it impacts the play, I keep our flag in our pocket for that reason. Again, this is a general philosophy thing. You don't have to follow this, but if you do keep your flag in your pocket here and you follow similar philosophy with all your other plays like this, you're going to realize that you're going to have a lot less penalties in your game. Sorry for that little delay at the end, but thank you guys, as always, for your support. Sincerely appreciate it. Keep up the great work out there this season, and I hope that you guys have a great week this week, and we'll see you for Training Tape number 4. Thank you again for all of your support.